What is up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Stand Your Ground. I'm your host, as always, Alex Benison, and I am joined by one member of the Matty Whites podcast, Casey.
How you doing, mate?
I'm not too bad, mate. How are you doing?
If you'd have asked me before we played Liverpool, I'd have been a bit happier, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, timing and all that. This is probably the worst time for us to do a podcast for you.
It's not the best. I'm never in the cheeriest of moods. The half hour or so after a defeat, but it is what it is. And to be honest, I'm surprised there was even a game allowed to be on this weekend. I thought there was one man played a football match and no one else was there. Just crowds of people to watch Cristiano Ronaldo and people wanking themselves silly over it.
I mean,
I'm more bitter than I was at the start of the day.
We will get onto that. But when we left off, our final podcast was on transfer deadline day. So we had tons of news flying in from all angles with different transfers, some to the Premier League, some outbound from the Premier League, and some that happened after the Premier League, after we finished recording anyway.
And Ross Barkley going nowhere.
Poor Ross Barkley. He does just want to play.
He was on the bench yesterday, at least.
And then we did also go into the international break. England picking up 7 points from 3 games. Respectable?
Yes, I mean, the way in which we conceded so late on against Poland isn't ideal, but a point away at Poland is... It's not the worst thing in the world. I will take issue with Jesse Lingard in particular in that Andorra game. Who I had this issue with him just before the Euros as well. I was like, I understand that, especially when you're not playing week in week out, you kind of want to impress Gareth Southgate a bit. But you know what would really impress him was getting a couple of assists. Giving it to Pat. That would really help.
Right, yeah, but if Pat didn't fluff his only chance, then...
He'd have had a lot more chances if Jesse Lingard would have passed the pissing ball.
Yeah,
Jesse Lingard volleyed one 20 yards over the bar, but he was facing the wrong way.
Yeah, and Ronaldo taught him all he knows.
But hopefully not all he knows.
But coming out of transfer deadline day, it's actually been a weekend for debuts. A lot of strikers have come into the Premier League for new teams, and a lot have got off the ground running straight away for their new clubs. We'll start with the first game, as we always do on our game roundup here for the Premier League. Crystal Palace 3, Spurs 0. And let me know if you actually thought this was going to happen when this fixture pulled up.
No, Spurs have been off to a solid start. The one thing I thought about them was that, yes, I don't think they've got the quality of coach that they need, but he is a good man manager, and I think he'll lift the players from where they were. But this just seemed to play into Crystal Palace's hands. They seem to sit quite deep where, Palace, especially as a team that's still coming together, it seemed very strange to sit back and allow them to have as much possession as they did. And the strength in that Palace team is the attacking lineup. Spurs were very poor as well. Was it 55, 56 minutes when they had their first shot of the game?
Yeah, the stats are 2 shots, 1 on target in the full game for Spurs, which I know they went a man down in the 58th minute. But even for 58 minutes, they didn't have a single shot in the first half.
No, it's poor. And again, when you talk about a team that has the creative players that Spurs do, it seems a very strange approach to that game. But you've also got to say fair play to Palace. If you're going to be given that chance to go forward, then you might as well take it. And by the end, I didn't think they were worth it.
Yeah, I must admit, Son missing for Spurs is always going to be a huge factor in any game that they play. But I don't think, even though they started this weekend at the top of the table, I don't think Spurs have been trailblazing this season. I think all 3 of their games have been 1-0 wins. I know one of them was against City, and they had a really good game against City, just being able to nullify their attacking threat. And the guy that was their best player for that game was Tanganga, who ended up being sent off in this game. But he seemed to just lose his head, and I cannot understand for the life of me what his reaction is with Wilfried Zaha. He's allowed to play on. Why he's so angry?
Yeah, it's him and Zaha, to be honest, both very angry men. No, it's a daft thing in a game that at that point, is still, still within your reach. It's such a daft thing to get sent off for such a stupid thing. I don't know what happens when that sort of thing goes through your head. I was watching, I think it was like the silliest red cards in the Premier League earlier, and it was up there with, I'm trying to remember who it was now, the West Brom player who just picked up the ball and just smashed it, I think, at Kevin Nolan, just like drop kicks at him from 2 yards. When you're looking going, hey, what are you doing? He pulled your shirt.
You're going back to old West Brom players. The only person I can think of is Zoltan Gera, and I'm pretty sure it wasn't him.
No, it's not him. If only. If only.
But yeah, pulls that pretty ridiculous challenge on Wilfried Zaha, where both men ended up with a yellow card, I think, which was fair by the ref, but then goes lunging into a second challenge. I think it's on Conor Gallagher. Don't quote me on that. I think it is anyway. But it's a reckless challenge. It's definitely a second yellow. And it really did just switch the tide of the game. And this isn't the side this isn't the Palace side that we knew under Roy Hodgson. It does seem to be Patrick Vieira's kind of got them playing a little bit.
Yeah, and they are set up for that. You look at the signings that they've made this summer, and I've said before that there's not many managers get given the chance to rebuild a team like Palace have done, and Vieira's got to do this year. But I do, I think transfer-wise, I think they made some very good signings. I still think in the long term you need to, especially because of his age now as well, you need to start looking at a new number 9 to replace Benteke. But you look at Edouard coming on to make his debut. You've got Zaha there. You've got Elise. You'll get, they have that attacking talent in the midfield there.
They can only get stronger.
And also,
as well.
Jordan Ayew is there.
They can only get stronger as well when Eze does come back from his was it Achilles injury? I think he had at the back end of last season. But yeah, like you hinted at, Wilfried Zaha scoring a penalty, fair enough. I think if you were expecting Palace to score in this game, it was going to be Wilfried Zaha that people would have put money on. But Edouard coming off the bench, basically with his first touch getting a goal and then scoring in added time. But I will say neither of the goals looked amazing. I think Lloris should have saved that second one, if anything.
I mean, you look through the game, and I did think, I thought, as I said, I think Palace were worth the win. I thought Conor Gallagher had a couple of chances, and I think he'll be disappointed he didn't come away with a goal. It'll be tough being a Crystal Palace fan now, having the expectations that Edouard's going to score a goal every 5 minutes now.
Yeah, they'll be calling for him to start, and he'll come off after 65 minutes for Christian Benteke in the next game.
You got to keep these people grounded, haven't you?
So moving on to the 3 o'clock kickoffs, we're going to do them in the order that Sky have got them in, and the relegation 6-pointer that was played at the Emirates this weekend between Arsenal and Norwich, 1-0 Arsenal. But to be honest, I do feel bad for Norwich. I feel like Norwich could have come away with a point from this, and it would have been fair.
it's a very strange world we live in now, where Norwich versus Arsenal is a big game for Arsenal. But strangely, Mikel Arteta also described the last 10 to 15 days as the best of his career so far, which I don't know if that's...
Come on, Mikel. 10 of them were on international duty.
It's the win they needed and the goal they needed, but I think one of the things you could sense was there was a lot of relief when that goes in, but a 1-0 win against Norwich isn't, papering over the cracks anytime soon. They need to get some decent results and at least get themselves to the top half of the table first before anyone, I think, eases off on the pressure on them.
Yeah, the match stats, Jack, I think they kind of speak for themselves. 52 to 48% possession in favour of Arsenal. You would expect an Arsenal side to have a hell of a lot more possession, especially at home against Norwich. But the one that does stand out is 30 shots, but only 7 on target by Arsenal, whereas Norwich only had 10 and 1 on target.
Christ, that's thrilling, that one. Really need to invest in another striker, but or anyone who can score goals for Arsenal, I suppose, at this point. But Ben White up there, he'll be fine.
Yeah, Ben White did make his long-awaited return. He only missed out on the England squad because of COVID.
Yeah, bless him. I'm glad he wasn't there for those last 2 games.
Brentford 0, Brighton 1. Brighton scoring in the 90th minute thanks to Trossard. Again, another game that I think this is going to be a running theme from Saturday's 3 o'clock kickoffs, minus maybe one game, which you wouldn't have been surprised if it had finished as a draw, because I think both teams went out there to play football. And it'll be one of those games where you watch back and you think it's actually an exciting 1-0 because both teams are playing attacking football and it's fun to watch.
Yeah, and last season, you probably would have been saying if Brentford played Norwich, if Brentford want to stay up, that's the sort of game they need to be to get a result from. But Brighton have made a very good start so far this season. It's why I ended up putting Mopai in my fantasy team actually this week. Had to take Patson Daka out because clearly Brendan Rodgers isn't playing him anytime soon. So, good win for Brighton, who, after last season with them, their stats looking fantastic, but them not getting the results, it does seem like it's coming together for them now this season. Turns out selling Ben White was the best thing they could do.
Yeah, sell Ben White and somehow you'll start scoring goals.
Clearly he was holding them back.
Then we move on to Man City beating Leicester 1-0 away from home. Bernardo Silva in the 62nd minute for this game. And another one where, to be honest, City went out there and they played the game perfectly, to be in quite frank terms. 1-0, I think, kind of flat as Leicester. It was a typical City performance, and they normally struggle against Leicester. So I think Pep probably got his tactics right for this one. Yeah,
and this one being a repeat of the Charity Shield, or Community Shield, whatever you want to call it. I think after the start they made one, losing that and then losing to Spurs. I think City needed a win like this against a team that's going to be challenging for European places again. I still think Leicester are decent. So I thought they looked all right, to be honest. Did Leicester, but like you say, I think City dominated. City had a few decent chances as well. Grealish probably should have got a goal out of this one. They seem to be doing all right without a striker, the City. In fact, moving their striker out to the right-hand side has actually seemed to work out quite well.
I was about to say they've got a great striker, but he's a second-choice right winger at the moment.
He's put up decent numbers, is Gabriel Jesus, isn't he? He's had a good start to the season, but I think this is playing with this is taking the false nine to a whole new level when you just don't have a number 9 at all.
I know the Argentinians weren't allowed to play this week, but I mean, if the Brazilians weren't allowed to play as well, City would have had no striker whatsoever.
And they probably wouldn't buy more.
No,
it was one of those. It's one of those things.
Lie. They have Rory Delap's kid, don't they?
Yes. Whose first name I've forgotten. I just assume he's got a cracking throwing on him.
He's called Rory Jr.
He's called Sit On.
Really?
Sit on Delap.
Oh, I thought you were going to say sit on the bench.
No, I couldn't help myself making a dad joke there.
Ah, fair enough. Well, moving on to the game that actually seemed to draw goals, and it was great to see one man run around a pitch for 90 minutes.
The most important game in Premier League history, if you were to believe the media this week. Jesus.
Yeah. A man who apparently has already wrote a history at Man United and has come back to write more.
To write some more. Jesus.
The return of Cristiano Ronaldo to Manchester United at Old Trafford against Newcastle. 4-1 victory and 4-1 flattered Man United.
Yeah, I mean, it was Newcastle. It was quite nice when Newcastle made us briefly think they might get something from the game and spoil your day, but no, it was never going to happen. And the problem was Newcastle set up with a 5-4-1, and they just had nothing going forward. Like, Joe Linton might as well have not been there.
They were hampered by the injury to Callum Wilson right before the game.
I think what they're really hampered by is their owners, and having Steve Bruce as a manager. I think those are the two biggest things hampering Newcastle. It just got ridiculous for me. I was at home watching Final Score, and just everything was about Ronaldo. Nothing else mattered. Every analogy of players scoring was like, oh, Cristiano who? It's Swift that's got his hat trick for Reading. Like, why are we comparing the two?
Well, it was set up because Cristiano Ronaldo's first Manchester United hat trick came against Newcastle at home in a 6-0 win, and I can't even say he was that convincing. Yes, he was quick off the mark for the first goal, which was a tap-in. Freddie Woodman probably, if it's not for the deflection, that isn't reaching Ronaldo's feet. The second one is a great through ball by Luke Shaw, and it's a good finish between the keeper's legs. But other than that, he didn't show anything outstanding.
He didn't have to, did he? Did all he had to do. I mean, if nothing else, the one thing you would say, you look at that team now, and especially once your options are all fit, it's a hell of a selection headache to have between Sancho, Rashford, Martial, Ronaldo, Donny van der Beek. Mason Greenwood, Paul Pogba, it's Jesse Lingard, who apparently is going to play a bit of football for them.
Hey, goal scorer Jesse Lingard. How do you find?
Yeah. So yeah, it's if you're Solskjaer, it's not the worst headache to have.
I was really happy to see Bruno score from outside the area as well. It just kind of that little bit of a one-up on Ronaldo of, yeah, mate, no, this is how you score a decent goal.
What do you think he worries about his goal bonus now for the rest of the season? Because he's probably not going to be on penalties anymore.
He's going to be twatting them from every fucking angle whatsoever. We are going to have... I bet if you put both Ronaldo and Bruno's shot totals at the end of the season, they'll have had more combined shots than Burnley have all season.
There's every... I might have used. Who would I use in that example? Ooh.
Arsenal.
Yeah, Arsenal would be the comedy answer, wouldn't it? Really? Oh, you've won a game, big whoop. Norwich is probably the team I would have used that against, but yeah, it's funny with Arsenal.
Yeah, to be honest, I was looking at the substitutions that Steve Bruce made, and yes, we all know that Steve Bruce is one of the worst tactical managers in the Premier League currently. But Manquillo scores his first goal for the club, then he's instantly substituted with Jacob Murphy. Yes, it's more of an attacking threat. Get that. But then brings Kieran Clark off for a left back in Jamal Lewis to have Matt Ritchie push further forward, and then takes Willock off and puts Jeff Hendrick on, who's a more defensive midfielder. So you've gone for a more attacking approach and then into a more defensive approach.
I don't understand that thing, especially once you're already playing with a back five, and then you start taking off the options, taking off the players who are going to help you with the counter attack. It seems such a we're level. Let's hold on to this 1-1 draw at Old Trafford. As if you can do that, Steve Bruce. Come on. It's not happening.
So moving on to a 0-0 draw between Southampton and West Ham. The only thing really to talk about from here is Mikel Antonio, who was sent off at the end of the game for his second bookable offence, which David Moyes branded as stupid.
Yeah, again, stupid, daft, whatever you want to call it. It was a stupid way to finish the game, especially for West Ham, because he is their main striker at this point. It's very surprising that they didn't really get that replacement in or get another striker in. So they'll be without him for a game.
Yeah, because I'm looking at Southampton's lineup, and yes, we all know they don't have a second striker. There is not one to bring off the bench. Possibly, maybe play Yarmolenko as a striker, but now you're just going to end up with a bunch of wingers trying to fill that gap. And the only person for me that I can see that probably could play that number 10 role is either Lanzini or Fornals.
Yeah, I don't know for me whether you'd be looking at, in terms of someone who can be a goal scorer. I know he's not been for West Ham so far, but do you just go and play Benrahma there at this point?
He's good on the ball, but I just don't think he has the strength that you need to come up against two centre backs. He is like we've said, they are all wingers. All their options are now just wingers, unless there is some miracle 18-year-old who's going to get his debut in the next game that we don't know of.
That is a story that everyone can get behind, at least. Someone from the crowd.
You.
Yeah. That was my David Moyes impression. So yeah.
Yeah, next Sunday is really not going to help them as well, because they're playing Man United. They're playing Ronaldo.
Yeah. Yay. The media talk continue. I'm really sure. I know we're going to keep going back to this. I'm surprised it wasn't like Big Brother with Cristiano Ronaldo, where there's a camera in his bedroom just filming him sleeping. And then every now and again he starts talking in his sleep, but the sound of birds chirping plays over the top, so he's not giving away any information.
He's lost a little bit of arrogance, but not a lot. His Sky interview afterwards. Yeah, I expected to score one, but not twice. Why, did you think we were getting a penalty, did you?
Poor Newcastle. He's walking into that game going, no, I'm scoring against you. There's nothing you can do about it.
What are you going to fucking do? Moving on, the final 3 p.m. game from the Saturday. Watford 0, Wolves 2. And again, another day for the debuts. Hwang Hee-chan comes off the bench to score Wolves' second goal. after an own goal by a Watford defender. Watford, again, I think will feel a bit hard done by. 2-0 probably is a bit flattering towards Wolves. But again, Wolves have had a struggling starts this season. They find it hard to find the back of the net. And then to get 2 in this game probably is a big boost for them.
Yeah, a much needed result for them, as with a lot of change going on. I'm still with Wolves. I'm surprised there probably wasn't more departures over the summer. I think they've done well to keep some of the players they did. I still, when I watch Watford, I still don't know where to place them right now, because I think they're a decent team, and I think if you played this game 100 times, I think it'd be very close as to which way it goes either way.
The thing that annoyed me about watching watching Watford in this game is that you've signed a striker from the Belgian league. Yes, it's the Belgian league. You never know what's really they're going to be like. But Dennis scored in I think he scored twice on the opening day of the season. And then they stuck him out right so they could play Joshua King up top on his own.
Yeah. I mean, I sort of feel sorry for Josh King, because it's been an odd year for him, just being let go on a free transfer, essentially, then picked up. It was like £1 million, wasn't it, for Josh King? I think Everton paid for him
on his 6-month deal.
Yeah, to not really do anything, to release him to go to Watford. So it's a lot of movement for him.
Yeah, he's fallen from about 18 months ago when Solskjaer really wanted him.
Yeah, but Solskjaer was just trying to get any striker he could get his hands on at that point, and look what you came out with in the loan market.
Yeah. We'll speak about that.
Watford, Man United signing a former Watford striker on loan. Yeah.
You leave Ighalo alone. He was great in the FA Cup.
He was great in China.
And then the final game of the season. Of Saturday. Well, fuck, the season's finished.
Are we still, I think we're just outside the relegation zone. Well, fine, I'll take it.
Yeah, Man United have won the league because, Ronaldo's back. Chelsea 3, Villa 0. Again, Chelsea looked very, very dominant. And Lukaku... The thing is, every time I watch Lukaku take that touch, run towards the defence, you think, fucking hell, he's a lot quicker than what you expect him to be. And then you think, Jesus Christ, how has he still got control of this?
He looks like a chuffing lorry running at you or something like that. He knows how to use his size so well. And you see it so many times now when he's got a ball being played into like his chest, and he seems to be able to back a defender up 5 yards before he's got the ball, just by stepping backwards and shoving them with his arse. It's fantastic to watch. The one thing I'll say from this game is I thought Villa actually did quite well up until the second goal. And I thought they kept themselves in the game, had one or two, you'd say half-decent chances. But I thought they were the better team than Chelsea up until the second goal. And then you just got Mings misses that touch in the pass across from him. And then he doesn't get enough power on the back pass that he's scrambling to try and save. And it gives Chelsea a second, and it kind of finishes it from there. But I thought for a decent period, especially in the first half, I thought they actually did very well.
Yeah, you got to admit it's quite a hard game, especially for Villa to be missing their star keeper in Martinez and having to start Jed Steer at Stamford Bridge against the Chelsea side that are full of confidence. It does bode for a bit of a disaster for them. And they did cope quite well. I think, although you're saying I know Mings had that error that led to the goal. I think the back three of Konza, Tuanzebe and Mings looked quite solid for most parts of this game. And you're normally not saying that after a 3-0 defeat. And I do think they missed Buendia as well. I think Buendia has been offering them that out ball. And I know Ollie Watkins had a few shots on target, and it'll have been good for him to get a bit of game time. But I do think Buendia were a big miss for him.
Yeah, just you talk about the back three, and I did think they had quite a good game. I always remember, I'm pretty sure I think it was like Jack Whitehall went on Fighting Talk a few years ago, and him being an Arsenal fan, he was like, "Oh yeah, we'd start the season really well, we'd have a couple of nice performances, and then we'd play Chelsea, and our defenders would get Drogba tested, and essentially you just get bullied about by Drogba, and you're like, oh no, these defenders are shit as well." And I feel like that's sort of the experience you kind of go through as teams coming up against Lukaku at the moment. Is like you'll watch them and go, "Oh yeah, they're quite good. They look strong enough positionally. They're doing well. They're winning the headers." Then you play Lukaku, like, "Oh god, oh god, that man's a machine." The way I think it was Konsa who went for the block for that first goal, where he just really cuts inside. And Konsa's done what you have to do. You've got to slide in there to make that block, but he just turns inside out and absolutely rifles it in.
Yeah.
Same with the second one. His second one, sorry. Well, he does really well because I think he's got the ball a bit under his feet and still somehow manages to break the goal and get it in the top corner.
This is what I mean. Everything Lukaku does looks unnatural, but somehow it works.
You do wonder when you look at him, like, and you ask this question more and more with each passing day. Like, how did Jose Mourinho look at him and go, he's not for me? Where's Anthony Martial? Get him in.
Well, the reason is because we were giving him the wrong fucking diet, apparently.
I said this to Jack because I watched the game with him. And I was just like, obviously he did very well for Inter Milan, but I wish he'd gone to like La Liga or gone to like Borussia Dortmund to try and make a bit of competition in the Bundesliga. Because Serie A is not what it used to be. It'd been so nice to see him in La Liga just tearing it up there.
That would have been a horror show to try and see Lukaku and Haaland playing together.
Oh God, the strength! Imagine being a defender with them two turning up.
Yeah, it might not, just be Bayern Munich buying the team who finished second's best players and then win the league again.
I'm taking their manager.
Yeah, I can't wait for Dortmund to finish second this year, and they'll take Giovanni Reina.
But no, he's been a fantastic signing already as Lukaku, and there's every chance I think we can call it here that he is the signing of the season.
Whoa! Hold up. You're going to say Lukaku over an entire brand that has been signed to come back and rewrite history?
Yeah, the difference is Lukaku could go on holiday to the US and Cristiano Ronaldo can't for legal reasons. Moving on.
Just you wait till he scores an hat-trick against Young Boys on Tuesday. Gylfi Sigurdsson can't play against Young Boys on Tuesday. Allegedly.
No. Thank you for saying allegedly. Apparently he's got other plans. I think he's going out with the missus or something. I don't know, but we'll move on from that one.
So on to the only game on a Sunday, which seems really strange because they still called it Super Sunday, even though there was only the one fixture.
That's how big this game was.
Yeah, and then Liverpool 3, Leeds 0.
Yeah, it wasn't as fun. No, it's obviously it's a disappointing result, but having got tonked 5-1 at Old Trafford, I'll take a 3-0 against Liverpool. Ultimately, this is a game we weren't expected to win at any point anyway. So it's not the worst result. So my hope, and me and Jack recorded a short podcast before the game. I think both of us just said, as long as it doesn't turn into Old Trafford, we'll get onto Harvey Elliott shortly. But in terms of the performance itself, I'm one who tries not to, especially on social media. I'm not big on hammering players and things like that. And I think some people will be very upset that we are looking at going into this Newcastle game with the one central defender that no one seems to like in Liam Cooper. But, there were a couple of decisions at times, and it wasn't just Cooper, where there was a spell, and it must have been sort of from in the first 20 minutes where they had the ball across our penalty area 3 or 4 times. They scored from one of them. Then they had one ruled out for offside. And then they had another one where Mane should have scored, but he put it over the bar. We got away with that. And, best chance of the game for us came with Rodrigo. It was, played in at the centre of the penalty area. And just needs to curl it into the bottom corner and just absolutely lashes it straight to Alisson, which was disappointing.
So what happens when you play a striker at centre mid?
I feel sorry for him at the moment, because the longer he plays there, and especially against teams like Man United and Liverpool, you just wonder why he's there. Bielsa clearly saw something and has said, right, he's going to be my advanced number 8, but it doesn't work at times. Now, the one thing I will say is that I think for the most part, his decision making, I thought, was actually quite good through the day. I thought his movement off the ball was good. I think he was playing the right passes, but everything was just overhit. There was a point when he was about to play Bamford in, and he just seemed to hit it as if Bamford was 20 yards away from him when he's about 5 yards in front. I was a bit surprised he came off at half-time, but also not surprised because it's Bielsa.
Yeah, bringing especially after you had to take Diego Llorente off for, being made of paper that has been fucking thrown in the shower for Struijk, and then second half first sub straight away bringing Tyler Roberts on. I think it showed that either Bielsa thought you were missing something creatively up top, or because, we all know that Tyler Roberts loves a back heel. There is no doubt in that.
A back heel.
And maybe that's what Bielsa thought you were missing. Maybe Rodrigo wasn't seeing those back heels that were needed, on the edge of their 18-yard area. But also Dan James getting his debut as well for you, coming on for Jack Harrison. That debut that he's been waiting for about 2 years now.
I felt really sorry for Dan James, in as much as he scored on his Swansea debut, his Man United debut, and his Wales debut. So at that point, he must, Dan, you're going to come on. He's like, can we wait?
Can I play Newcastle?
We're not scoring in this one, are we? Come on. Let's just hold off on this one.
I'll even play right back.
I mean, again, before the game, me and Jack were talking, and we both thought that Click was going to be the key man in this. He was back. He'd been out. He'd also been out with COVID, like Firpo. And after his performances at the start of the season, I was surprised that Rodrigo started. I think we both leaned more towards Click and Dallas in centre mid. It gives you that extra bit of defensive coverage which you need in a game like this. And I think Click does better at arriving late when you're on the counter-attack. I think Rodrigo his striker's instinct when we are going forward is to get into the penalty area quickly, whereas you tend to get Click makes that late run. Very Lampard-esque. But less of a wanker, I suppose. So it was very surprising to see Roberts come on ahead of him. I found that surprising, and Roberts he got into a good position. His shot was terrible. He basically passed it to a photographer at the side of the field. it's been one of the big things Leeds fans have been worried about, that we didn't sign a number 8 or another central midfielder anyway. You know, Lewis O'Brien was one of our main targets, but we didn't want to spend the money that Huddersfield wanted.
That 15 million.
Allegedly, I can't imagine. I can't imagine we offered that much and they said no. Like, they're not in the position to be turning down that sort of money, surely.
That's fine. You'll sign him for about 5 when they get relegated to League One.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see now where we go. Obviously, with in fact, you know, we'll talk about Harvey Elliott's injury, because it was a very unfortunate incident. You know, there's having seen the lead up to it, because in just watching the game live, I didn't really notice anything. You know, it was Strikes lost the ball. He makes a recovering run, gets alongside him, slides in, and he gets the ball. And I know his back leg is kind of cocked to
Underneath.
the side. Yeah. It's not as if he scissors him or anything. I don't know. Like, they didn't show the full replay, so I don't know how it went. But I don't know if it's just that his trailing leg has pushed Elliott's leg down when his studs are in the ground or something like that. But you know, when you're watching it live, I didn't think anything of it.
Well, what I'll do is, you know, from the power of, you know, Facebook, I'm going to send you the video that the Liverpool fan Lewis sent us via Facebook. He filmed directly just watching Harvey Elliott on the screen just to see what had happened. And the way Salah motions, as soon as Strike stands up from the challenge, you can tell. It's instinct reaction of, oh shit, no, this has gone wrong.
Yeah, the player's reaction. I'm not going to watch it. I don't think I can bring myself to watch these things. I'm not good at watching injuries at the best of time. You know, from a few of the players' reactions, you knew it wasn't good. And it's that thing of there are injuries that happen from tackles that aren't deliberate, that aren't dangerous. And I didn't think it was a dangerous tackle. And the question that I think I've heard a few people ask now is, if he doesn't get injured in that tackle, is it a red card?
Yeah, it's one of those things, and I think refs are, when the injury is more of a serious note, are more likely to send someone off. And I think we were talking about this before we went live. We were comparing it to the injury that Andre Gomez suffered a couple of seasons ago from the tackle that Son put in. It wasn't Son's fault that Andre Gomez's leg broke. It was more the fact that his studs didn't come out of the ground. It wasn't the challenge per se. It just happened, unfortunately, in that challenge. And I think it will be another one where the Premier League and the FA look at that and go, no, we'll rescind Strike's ban, because it's not really his challenge that has caused the injury. It's just an unfortunate circumstance.
Yeah. I don't, you know, obviously you don't want to see anyone injured like that, as much as I ever joke about Cristiano Ronaldo having his head taken off by Liam Cooper. You know, we don't want to see players get injured, certainly not in that manner. I feel horrible for Harvey Elliott, because he's a young lad. He's 18 years old. He's broken into the Liverpool team, having just had a season on loan at Blackburn or whatever it was. You know, he's living every kid's dream at the moment, and it's a horrible thing to happen. So I hope it's not as bad as it seems. But given the reaction to it, it does seem like it's gonna be a bad injury. I feel a bit sorry for Strike as well, in as much as, you know, again, I don't think there was any intention there. I think it's an unfortunate accident, and I think he will come away feeling, you know, you could see by the reactions, none of the Liverpool players were angry with him. You know, and I think when he got sent off, I think he seemed to hang around for a while, and I think he seemed in disbelief as to everything that had happened.
Yeah, the things that are coming out from the ground is it doesn't look like it's his leg. It looks like it's his ankle more than anything, which I know this is hard to say, but sometimes that's worse for a footballer if it's your ankle that's gone rather than, say, you've broken your leg at your shin height, because that is going to take a lot of impact, especially playing football.
It greatly affects your mobility. Anyone that's played football at any level will have sprained their ankles a few times, and unless you rehab it properly, you can lose a lot of flexibility in your ankle there.
This just did. Jurgen Klopp confirms it's a dislocated ankle that he's suffered.
Ooh. I will say, well,
it's better than a break.
Yeah, it's good. It's good and bad in as much as that's a horrible thing. Like, I can't imagine the pain. It is better than a break. It's something that will heal quicker. The only issue you now have is that he is now more susceptible to something like that. But it did also seem to come from just an accidental but horrible set of circumstances of the stars aligning in completely the wrong way.
Yeah, and we do wish Harvey Elliott all the best in his recovery. Fingers crossed it's a very speedy recovery. And when it comes to dislocations, I mean, especially because it's an ankle dislocation, it's probably a surgical matter. It's not just going to be, let's pop your foot back into place. But hopefully, I mean, even if it's his season over for this year, I think he'd take that and hopefully be back ready for next season and be back in Klopp's side then.
Yeah, I'd be very interested to hear what the timeline for recovery from this sort of thing is, because it's not an injury that you hear of very regularly.
No, a dislocated ankle is a very very rare injury, especially to hear on a football pitch. But yeah, that rounds up all the games that we've seen so far this weekend. There is only one more game to take place, which is tomorrow night, Monday Night Football. And what better way could you think of having the game of Everton and Burnley?
Oof.
Can't wait for that.
Well, yeah. I'm thinking about that. I don't really have any strong opinions either way. I think after the way they played against us the other week, I sort of want to see Everton beat Burnley just to stick it to Ashley Barnes, if nothing else.
You're looking at Everton's record this season. They've got a win against Brighton. They drew 2-2 with you. They beat Southampton 3-1. So they're undefeated this season, whereas Burnley have only one draw, which is against you, and then lost to both Liverpool and Brighton on the opening day. Statistically, that would say that you'd expect Everton to win it, but because we're so early on in the season, it's so hard to say which way form is going. But I would expect Everton at home to pick up a result against Burnley.
Yeah, and you look at that for Everton, it's a good set of fixtures. Well, it's a good set of fixtures if you get the results from them, and so far they have. As I said earlier, I think a draw against us is, I think that us and Everton aren't going to end up that far apart, so a draw seemed a fair result. Win against Brighton, who, as good a start Brighton has got off to, I think Brighton will similarly end up somewhere, mid-table-ish. So it's a winnable game. Beating Southampton, who are a team I think are going to end up being in a relegation scrap this season. It's the result they needed. It's the result they should be getting there as well. So Everton, you'd say, are on course at the moment. So if they can keep that going, it'll be a good start to the season for them.
Yeah, and I know it's too early to read into things, but we'll look at the relegation spots on the top of the table. We can't be asked looking at the middle of the table because we'll be here all night.
Just to double check, did Burnley have any players go away on South America for international duty or anything like that? No. No Brazilians in there. No, Argentinians.
I don't know. I mean, Dwight McNeil might have a great granddad that played football in Bolivia once.
He's the next Bren Brereton, is he?
Yeah, probably. Looking at the table, at the bottom of the table, you got Norwich, 0 points, minus 10 goal difference. But to be honest, from some of the games they've played, it looks a little harsh because they have had to play Liverpool, Man City. Who was the other one? Liverpool, Man City. They had a really hard start to the season. Who was last week's game for them? Not last week's because that was internationals. Liverpool, Man City, and
Leicester as well.
Yeah, and Leicester, and then obviously it eased up playing Arsenal this week.
Yeah, for them in their next 3 league games, they've got Watford, Everton, and Burnley. So it is a slight reprieve from not the most fun opening to the season.
Yeah, and to be honest, I look at their midfield and the signings that they've made, and I do think that Norwich are better than what the table suggests at the moment. But then again, we'll wait and see on that front. Then Newcastle sitting in 19th, 1 point, minus 7 on goal difference. Burnley with a game in hand as 18th with 1 point and minus 3. And then you are just sitting above the relegation places.
Safe.
2 points, minus 7 on goal difference.
Yeah, not ideal.
Not really what you see from Bielsa very often.
No, but again, like I say, I think if you look at the results we've had in the first 4, it's, about what you'd expect for us. We probably should have got a better result against Burnley. But that aside, I think a draw against Everton and losing to Liverpool and Man United aren't unexpected results. For us now, after this, we've got Newcastle, West Ham, Watford, Southampton, Wolves, and Norwich. So that's a run you'd expect us to get a couple of wins in there anyway and lift us back into our rightful position of 12th.
What you think? You think you're overtaking Villa?
Oh, I dream big, my friend. I dream big.
And then top 4. I mean, it's a pretty standard top 4, even this early on in the season. Man City 4th, Liverpool 3rd, Chelsea 2nd, and Man United are top. But the one that does stand out, Brighton sitting in 5th with 9 points, 3 wins and a loss. Graham Potter doing quite a good job now.
Yeah, like I said, got rid of Ben White, who was clearly a terrible influence at the club. Was it that he was such a good defender that in training no one was getting the chance to shoot, and that's why no one was any good at it during the season? Now he's gone. In training, they actually get the chance to shoot.
Well,
I just want to try and figure out how important Ben White was to all this.
Just anyway. And, to be fair, that Spanish goalkeeper that they've brought in, that Sanchez, he's been a good replacement for Matty Ryan, who's gone back to Valencia, I think it is that he's gone back to.
Right, I'm not misremembering this. He did go on loan to Arsenal for the second half of last season, didn't he?
Yeah, and I think he played about 3 games.
But don't worry, though. Aaron Ramsdale's there now.
Oh, yeah. No,
looking for relegation number 3.
Trick of relegations. Yeah, as I said, it's too early to look at the table and try and depict anything really from that because, I mean, we're only in September. We're only 4 games deep. But it's starting to shape out. We're starting to see some teams that are looking strong and looking like they could make a run for the title. A few teams that are looking like they could push for Europa League places, and then some that are falling by the wayside and maybe need a bit of luck, maybe a run of form to help them out and see if they can get off the starting blocks again. But that'll do us for this episode of Stand Your Ground. I am going to play a quick little video that's going to show you all the fantastic live videos that go here on What the Buzz, and I'll show you at the end where you can follow to make sure that you don't miss out on any of them.
where's the competition? Bring on the competition. We need some competition. Y'all ain't no competition. It's time to ball. Yeah, shawty, time to brawl. Cause see, we bout to stomp y'all from the jump ball. Me worry not at all. Your team is gonna fall. Hope you learn something from it, cause we schooling all of y'all. Putting you to shame. Don't hate you even came. Bringing the pain to anybody coming through the lane. Simple and plain, we gon' play it like we playing dames. Ain't got a chance, even if we give away the game. So hope you brought your best. Go put your skills to the test. An early off season, bout to lay your team to rest. Chalk is another loss, that's what it's gonna cost. Go with your instincts if you're having second thoughts. You buck, this is where it stops, player. From the point to the center, whole team got hops, player. We be the kings of this division, here to knock you out the box, player. Just wait until I get the rock, player. We tired of playing losers. Oh, y'all think y'all some winners? No matter who we up against.
Just vibing along there, are we, Casey?
It's not quite as good as War, but I like it.
Yeah, make sure you go over to all the socials at WTBdotcom. That's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Make sure you follow them. That's where all the videos go live. And that is also where you can find links to the articles that we write that end up on whatthebuzz.com. If you want to hear more from KC and Jack, who is occasionally on the podcast as well, you can follow their Leeds United-based podcast at Mighty Whites Pod on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. That's where they live stream their videos, and then it becomes an audio version available on all areas other than Acast, because fuck Acast.
Welcome to the Fuck Acast show.
I'm waiting for Jack to use that as an opening.
Or just, welcome to the Mighty Whites podcast. Fuck Acast.
Yeah, and I hope he does, because I'm going to claim royalties. Yeah, but as I said, that'll do us for this episode of Stand Your Ground. We will be back next Sunday once the Champions League has started, the Europa League has started, and even that Mickey Mouse competition, the Conference League, has all begun, and we'll have the next round of the Premier League. So, KC, thank you for joining us on this episode.
Yeah, cheers for having me.
And we will see you next time. In a bit, guys.